Big 12 race is shaping up as they chase March Madness glory. Is it enough for them to get over the top this season? We're talking about it on the Big 12 Squad.
You're talking ball with the Big 12 Squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up. It's the Big 12 Squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up. You're part of the Big 12 Squad.
Welcome into the Big 12 Squad, everybody. I'm Jake Hatch, host of Locked On Cougars. That next to me is my arch nemesis, Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs. Don't get those two confused. Below me, Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State, another one of my rivals. And then Chris Level, who completes the trifecta of teams that BYU's lost to in the recent past, host of Locked On Texas Tech. Thank you for making all of our shows your first listen today. And as always, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review, because that helps us keep our job. We're proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network. All right, everybody, we're going to talk a little bit about the Big 12 and their race for March Madness. Do we have enough elite teams to hopefully see one of them hoist the hardware come March? We'll get into that. Then we'll talk some way too early power poll ratings and BYU back in the headlines because Cody Stovall and Oklahoma State decided to act very poorly a week ago, and we'll dive into all that ahead on today's show. So I want to fire off, as I mentioned, BYU's lost to all three of your respective programs. They find themselves in the middle of the Big 12 race, but all three of your programs are looking like they're on a hunt for March Madness. Cody, obviously your team fighting to get onto the bubble here, whereas Parker and Chris, essentially you're playing for seeding at this point. How are we feeling? I just kind of open up to whoever wants to answer first. How are we feeling about the Big 12 in terms of the national, persona, or like perception, I should say, of the league as we head full on down towards March Madness?
I mean, I think it's as strong as ever, right? I know Houston just got here, so Chris can probably speak to that more so. And Cody and I have talked about basketball all the time, and I will say whenever I tell Cody about basketball, I think of like the Graham brothers and that Oklahoma State program being really strong. And maybe that's too old school of me, but Big 12's got 6 teams in the top 25, multiple teams in the top 10. Arizona is #1, and I guess as we're recording this, they have not lost yet. I don't mean to give the spoilers there away for folks, but it feels like as good a year as the Big 12 has ever had. And frankly, it feels like in the last 10 years, last year was kind of the anomaly, right? Like that I think sticks out as the one that's different. I could see any number of, obviously I'm going to sit here and tell you why Houston's going to do it, but any number of us think could see teams hosting and you hoisting a trophy. You mentioned BYU's lost all these teams, and I'll get off the mic in a second. BYU is still probably a Sweet 16 team at worst, right? Like that's just how tough the conference is. That's how I read it, I guess. Maybe I'm crazy.
Well, Chris, give us your sense, because you're the resident historian here, I should say.
Well, I think I don't know if I would phrase it differently than what Parker said. I don't know if it's as deep as it's ever been before. I do think, though, that this is a year where you have more teams that could win a national championship or make the Final Four than ever before. How about that? Because you're only going to get 7, 8, maybe 9 bids. The middle and the lower part of your league are not very good. And there's some of these top teams in this league that are going to play each other down the stretch, and it's going to affect their standing in the league, their national seeding, and all these things. It's just going to be interesting to see. But I do think you've got 3 to 4, maybe 5 teams that can make a Final Four or cut down the nets. And I don't know if we've ever felt that way before. But yeah, so because again, the SEC had 14 teams get a bid last year, right? And you're not even going to come close to that this year in what you would term your. But I do think that you've got more top end teams than any other league by far. The Big Ten probably next closest, and with what's going on with Purdue and some other teams, I think. But again, this league's brutal. I mean, Jake, you can speak to that. Your team was riding high.
Nope.
They've lost what 5 of 6.
Yeah, 5 of 6 as of recording of this podcast, 4 straight. Obviously, the most recent one to Parker's Houston Cougars. But before that, Cody, I want your thought on this. Oklahoma State, they're fighting to get themselves on to that bubble. They're 4-6 in league, but that win over BYU, I think, put some juice into their chances of making it into March.
Yeah, and then we got absolutely juiced by Arizona to the tune of almost 50 points, but that's okay. I saw what you did there. That was very professional of you. You pulled a level. Listen, guys, we all have to lose once by 50. I'm just happy that we got it out of the way, all right? And it just so happened to be Arizona. Legitimately speaking, fellas, I think the Big 12, right, we need this year. I thought Houston had a very good opportunity to get it done last year, and instead of us talking about the SEC getting a bunch of teams in and then statistically not performing as admirably as they should have because Florida won it, right? They win in the end. I think we need that for the Big 12 this particular season. I think Level just alluded to it. You have 3-4 teams that easily could find themselves, competing for Final Four spots. And Oklahoma State, yeah, I think accentuates that you can beat a top 15 team, because I agree. I think BYU's a Sweet 16 level ball club. Oklahoma State has that level of talent, but our inconsistency, I think, is the simplification of the conference. We can beat anybody, but we can also get beat by 50.
And if you're gonna make a run in this deal, like that's what worried me about an Oklahoma State or West Virginia, who I saw up close and personal yesterday. You have to have somebody that you can ride, man. Like somebody that is going to take over and get really hot. And obviously, with the freshmen on Parker's team and obviously your team, Jake, and I think Texas Tech has Christian and JT Toppin. That's just what it. That's why the teams we're talking about. I mean, you look at what Josh Jefferson at Iowa State, and you just got to have like a dude that potentially you can get on the back of and say, hey man, take me to the next round or get hot at the right time. And they're hard to find. It just so happens that the Big 12 has collected elite freshmen this year. Yep. I mean, the best team in the country has 2 freshmen starting. I think that's also a huge storyline. It used to be in this league, if you were relying on freshmen, you're in trouble. And now you've kind of collected this elite group that are going to all be lottery picks. It's wildly fascinating, and it's not going to stop. I mean, that's what these schools are going to continue. I'm talking high end freshmen, right? Yeah. Not just if you're leaning on 2 or 3 or 4 of them, you might be in trouble, because that's kind of what Colorado's doing and some other schools. But some of these dudes are freaks, man.
Well, and shout out to Arizona doing it old school. They don't have to shoot a bunch of threes to beat you.
All inside the paint, man.
Old school. They've got depth. Yeah.
My silliness. I assumed that Level was talking about Houston's 2 freshmen and Kingston Fleming and Chris Sinak. I totally wouldn't. No, I'm joking.
No, I meant Kingston Fleming's, but I mean Arizona's got 2 of them that nobody thought Burries was going to be like what he's been. He's just outperformed. Everybody knew Koa Pete was going to be good, but Burries has been, I mean, the difference in them being undefeated and them having 3 or 4 losses, if we're being honest. I mean,
it's been defensively too. And I think draft guys might have projected it, but I don't know if they'd have had it this fast. I look at the league, though. You got Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas, BYU, Tech. That's 6 teams right there that like have a guy that can win you a game. Chris mentions it, like, the goal is not to not play bad in March, it's to win when you play bad anyway, right? And each of those guys can cover up a lot of mistakes. Central Florida, Baylor, TCU have all beaten good teams, right? I think that's fair. I think Oklahoma State's beaten good teams. Cincinnati has given good teams a tough time. Like each of these, I think, have, and that's quickly getting up to the 8, 9, 10 range. I don't know that all of them get in. I think there's interesting arguments that you get to that point. And Cody mentioned last year how, like, yes, the SEC had 14 teams or whatever it was, but no one thought Texas was getting out of the first round, or no one thought, right, that those were all kind of just like, they're there, right? Also rans. And I think that top end deal, we have Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas, BYU, Tech, that could all make deep runs on a single player, is pretty impressive.
I'll tell you what you will dominate is the NBA draft.
Well, yes.
Yeah, because Baylor has been underachieved like crazy this year, right? But they've got two guys. If you go look at a lot of the mock drafts, they've got 2 first-round draft picks on their team. I've seen them. I've seen them up close. Obviously, Cameron Carr and the Yesufu kid. I mean, one of them is a freshman. The other one is just overachieved, and he's got some twitch. And anyway, that part is wild. Like we may hear more Big 12 schools called out in the first round of the NBA draft than ever before. It may break a record.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, BYU fans are sick of being so close to having one of those quality wins, but it kind of screams to what the Big 12 is doing right now. But to your point, Chris, the talent level, it's insane. So let's just pass this along. It's quality over quantity. Some of these other conferences may get more teams in, but the Big 12, the top end, gonna be hard to beat. All right. We're going to flip to football here. Way too early power rankings are out from our good friend Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports. And, well, to the surprise of nobody, Texas Tech's on top. We'll dig into the rest of it coming up next.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, so Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports obviously has been very open to talking about the Big 12 conference, gentlemen, and obviously projecting how they look in the season ahead. And he did his way too early Big 12 power rankings. And I think to the surprise of nobody, Chris Levels, Texas Tech Red Raiders, topped the poll as they should as defending champions. Chris, I want your sense of how the offseason has gone for Tech. Did they match the hype and the substance from what happened a season ago that led them to that Big 12 championship this past year? Have they kind of been able to measure up?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot back off of the championship team. They lost quite a bit, but they've got a lot back from their portal class a year ago that is going to return. But the biggest thing, obviously, was an unexpected need in that you needed to go get a quarterback, and that probably is what vaults Texas Tech. And so if Brendan Sorsby plays anything like he has, and he's certainly going to be playing with the best team I think that he's ever been on, I think it certainly would bode well for Texas Tech. And their schedule is not extremely tough. Yeah. There is no BYU on it. I mean, one of the toughest games may in fact be Eric Morris's, Pokes. I don't know what they'll be, when Texas Tech goes to Stillwater, and then obviously Parker's Cougars come in early, which is another one of the tough games that they've got. But there's just, I don't, BYU on the schedule with all that they've got returning is not on their schedule, and. So, that part is interesting, but this offseason was all about Brendan Sorsby, and they added a lot. They added a lot of the more defensive linemen, and they had some guys that were hurt last year that never played it down, that were part of the top portal class last year that are still here. So we shall see. But I didn't disagree with where Texas Tech and BYU, and I wouldn't have necessarily had a problem if somebody would have picked BYU to lead the poll with everything that they've got back and everything like that. But that's how it sits. I did find it interesting that Iowa State was picked 16th in that deal. I think that caused a bit of a stir with the Cyclone fans.
It did, but when you have 17 guys from the roster this year left over, it's a full reboot. And so, Cody, I want to get to Oklahoma State here momentarily. Let's take a minute for BYU, the number 2 here in the poll. And as Shahan notes here, and I think it's interesting he notes this, the Cougars are the most undervalued team in college football after going 23-4 over the past 2 years. I'm glad somebody in the national media like Shahan is acknowledging that. I just wish more people would, actually realize what's going on there. The biggest thing, Chris, to your point, is BYU. I'd be hard pressed to find another program in the country that if you went down the list of top talent you want to return, just in terms of what you guys have on your roster that has eligibility remaining, BYU checked off every single box. They went 100% on their retaining their top talent. And that is, I think,
and their head coach, which is the most important thing. Yeah,
correct. And that, I think, has got some Cougar fans saying, okay, if with another year of development, another year of getting these guys on the same page, considering their quarterback showed up last year in the middle of June, they think that they can make a run at this thing. But there is the big bad Texas Tech Red Raiders potentially showing up in Arlington to face off against you in the Big 12 title game. But without those two facing off in the regular season, I think it sets up kind of an easier schedule for both of them to potentially return and rematch there. Parker, obviously your Houston Cougars want to insert themselves in that conversation. What do you think of the chances of seeing a rematch in Arlington?
Well, it's interesting because I think part of this will come down, as Chris alluded to, scheduling, and there will probably be some big picture conversation about like conference scheduling and evenness of that sometime in the future. Because like Houston, I think is decidedly better. They had the best recruiting class in school history, big time portal class per all the different metrics and things like that. Like they did well. They won 10 games last year. When I look at like Jairaj's top 10 here, and first of all, I should point out like a great guy, like him a lot, etc. Of the top 10, Houston is one of them, and they play 4 of the others. They don't play half of it. The majority of their conference games are actually in the bottom half of his projected Big 12. And like Oklahoma State's probably Houston's second toughest game, and they're a big question mark. Like most of that's because of what happened with Utah. I guess Utah would have been better at, we don't really know enough about them either. The question mark too. Yeah. But like Houston plays Tech super early, and winning in Lubbock is hard. Weird things happen in Lubbock for the road teams, etc. They also beat your buddy a year ago pretty bad in your own place. And if I were going to play a transfer quarterback at some point in the season, I'd want it to be in mid-September when he's like getting adjusted to think like he's barely been in the system. Like I say to say that like Houston will probably have a shot at a really strong season again next year. And I don't know that means they're demonstrably better on the field or not. They should be. They brought in the talent. It'd be greght to make the 10 win regular season, make a run at Arlington or whatever. They weren't mathematically at it until late last year, but I think they'll have some wins just because they don't play anybody, and that'll help.
Well, okay, so Cody Stovall, I think the trendy pick for the dark horse are the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and it's because of what Eric Morris brings with him. Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, just the talent he drew with him from North Texas to join him there in Stillwater. What's the confidence level in Stillwater that this team can be the Arizona State of 2 years ago and really leap up?
I mean, it's hard not to view an all-star level quarterback as somebody that can drive you to new heights. It all will come down to, is Drew Mestemaker legitimately an NFL first-round kind of guy? If he is, then yeah, Oklahoma State could be talking about 9+ wins. If there's a lot of things around him that don't quite fall in line in time, then it could be kind of a moot point. The 8th positioning for Oklahoma State would essentially put us right around K-State last year, 6-6 overall. I think Oklahoma State fans should be happy with a 6-6 record. Therefore, I think 8th place in this power ranking is very fair. It'll all be contingent upon how well things gel. Parker mentioned it earlier. When you have some early season opponents, that can sometimes be a hindrance when you're trying to get so many new players, on the same page. Oklahoma State has 64 new players. So as much as we're going to love the continuity of the new North Texas players coming over, it's only 18 of them, right? Yeah. So I think, will they have the continuity schematically early enough to be ultra competitive? That is the unknown. That's what we don't know. If Drew Mestemaker is as good as advertised, and we are good very early, then yeah, we could be talking about an Arizona State 16th to first kind of conversation.
Yeah, Drew Mestemaker is the least of their problems, because and Eric Morris is inevitable at some point. I mean, he is going to turn that thing around, and they'll be very competitive. Their question is going to be on defense. That's where that's where their questions will be. But do you kind of hear what we're saying here? If anybody's listening to all of us, this league isn't very good, is it?
Well, that's the concern.
And I think we're all everybody's doesn't have a very strong schedule. What all are we saying? I know that this is the Big 12 show, but this is the reality of the league that you're in, and that there is almost no margin for error. Like, you're going to have to win the league to get a bid. I think you're staring at a one bid league again, more than likely. Now, I can't say that for certain, but that's what we're talking about here, and the margins are razor thin for everybody.
I do think that there's a possibility that you could have built a schedule, though. Like, if you were Tech and you played BYU, both Arizonas and Utah, like, you could have put I'm just saying, what I'm saying is like, none of us did that. No schedules got that.
No, I know, but I mean, we've all got some mixture of it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to be that tough, or there's just a few games, and maybe it doesn't work out that way. But I think it's just an interesting point that we're all making. That's the same point.
Well, let's break it down, though. BYU's at-large bids will hinge on one game. Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Like, but you know what's scary, Jake, is that BYU could win that game.
Yeah,
and if BYU doesn't win the league, they may get left out, and Notre Dame could still go in. And I disagree with that, but that's what could happen.
It's where they've been the last 2 seasons. They've been sitting right on the doorstep of making it in. And the College Football Playoff Committee has found every reason, I'm telling you, every reason under the sun to deny BYU entry into the playoff. And even potentially with the win over Notre Dame, who I think we're all expecting to be top 5 preseason, still can find BYU being on the outside looking in. And whoever does win, get it in. The biggest thing and real quick, I want your guys' all thought on this. I think the overarching goal for the Big 12 this season, even if it's a one-bid league, just win, advance in the playoff. I think that's the one thing the Big 12's got to do to start to change the mindset of the nation around this league, is have whoever gets in, whether it's 1 or 2 teams, whatever it is, somebody's got to advance. They've got to win.
I don't want no first-round buys, I can tell you that.
Sure. Yeah, that was a bit of a pickle. Last year, but it is what it is. It is what it is. The fifth spot in a 12-team playoff is pretty fortuitous.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Parker, any thoughts on that before we roll along?
No, I think you're right. I think the other thing is unfortunate is, like, it's also going to be about if that team doesn't win a title, it's also about how you lose, right? Because, like, TCU did win a game and no one talks about it because of how they lost. Right. And
Georgia scored again.
I mean, so like Tech could have beaten Oregon, and if they lost in a blowout fashion like that the next round, we'd probably still be catching the same jokes and strays and all that. Right. Like realistically, like for better or worse, I think it's more about not just winning a game or two. It's also about going out the air quotes right way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, fair enough. That's understandable. All right, coming up next, BYU and, religious bigotry back in the headlines. We'll talk about that next. You roll on here on the Big 12 Squad. Today's show brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Parker Ainsworth's favorite thing about 5 Hour Energy is?
I can have one in each hand.
Out of there.
They are readily available. It's a quick hit. All natural ingredients, I believe.
Yeah,
I drink it.
Whenever you're driving from state to state, coaching, teaching, covering multitude of sports, you need those extra incentives to stay awake on long trips. 5 Hour does that.
I was going to say I drink it even if it wasn't natural because it tastes very, very. It's a quick shot, little flavor. Boom, all it takes.
Hey. 17 different flavors. You can order them on Amazon or go to 5hourenergy.com. That's you can get your 5 Hour Energy, whatever flavor profile you want. They've got it for you guys. 5hourenergy.com. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. Tax season is here. Everybody doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. Chris Level, I'm going to start with you. What's your favorite feature about our friends over at TurboTax?
Well, it's the ease of use. Taxes are a complete mess for those of us in the contract labor business. When you've got 1099s coming out of your ear from all the different bosses that we have, ease of use. I guess I would just say that because I'm not a smart man, right? To quote Forrest Gump.
Yes, Cody Stovall, go.
Well, I can up level there. I went to the school for kids who can't read good. I definitely can't be reading all of my receipts enough to have them implemented in a way that benefits me. So I gladly pass things on up to the professionals.
Parker Ainsworth.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I teach history and not math. These numbers, they got to go to someone else, man.
Yes, that's right.
So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert. Just hand it off. That's what we all are talking about. Just hand it off to them for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take the taxes off your mind and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. That's turbotax.com/local. Cody Stovall, defend your Oklahoma State Cowboys and what they had to say about BYU last week. Go.
Stupidity is not bigotry. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
Trying to, and I agree
Bold.
with the penalty, and some of my Oklahoma State people are not going to be happy about that. But here's my deal. Did we say the thing that you're supposed to refrain from? No, not exactly. But did we purposely say something so close that there would be controversy? Yes. And for that alone, I think we do deserve it, right? Riding that fine line, trying to be cute is completely unnecessary. Because if you're doing that, right, statistics indicate that if you have 1,000 people doing one thing, there's always going to be 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or 7 that try to splinter off and do their own thing. And that opens up Pandora's box to a multitude of things. I can tell you that when this whole thing came down, I was insanely disappointed because I never thought that anything like this would even come close to happening in Stillwater. But it proves the point that you can try to be too cute for your own daggone good, and that's exactly what happened. And now we have a fine to go with it, and we kind of deserve it because we tried too hard to be too cute.
Jake, obviously Texas Tech and BYU have played some meaningful games in the last, 3 or 4 months, and the two main sports.
Yeah.
And I think Texas Tech was cognizant of these chants out there in the ether, right? Happened at Colorado
it happened, Cincinnati. It's obviously there's been allegations that happened at Kansas. Oklahoma State got dinged here.
Okay.
Happened in Arizona last basketball season. But Chris, I think you're going to make this point here. The one thing I've appreciated about Texas Tech is during the football season, Grant McCasland was out there before the game and essentially said, make this about us. Don't make this about denigrating BYU or the faith that sponsors the institution. And then the same thing, the flip side, in basketball, Joey McGuire wandered out there and said the exact same thing. I've got to reiterate, I've said it on my podcast on Locked On Cougars. I appreciate the way that Texas Tech has handled this. I believe it's the archetype, the model that the rest of the Big 12 should do in terms of avoiding this situation going forward.
Yeah, they have tried to get out in front of it, make it about us kind of thing, and it puts Grant and Joey in a weird spot, kind of going, why are they saying this to us? Because I think some people just they're oblivious to like some of this, right? They're not in this world and aware of some of what people may have said or be thinking, whatever. Yeah. But I would, and again, you can't control what people say. Yeah. Like, here's what's weird is that I think Oklahoma State, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were fined $50,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was another fine last week, and it basically happened right in front of me in Orlando, Florida, because UCF was fined $25,000 for storming the court. Mm-hmm. There was not the time hadn't elapsed. That there was still time left in the game. They were about to upset Texas Tech, and here they all come. And I mean, we got phones in kids' faces and middle fingers in kids' faces, like 10 feet away from me. You got a student doing chin-ups on the rim. I'm not joking. And there's still time on the clock.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no technical foul. There's no bench, this, there's no that. They had to get everybody off, and then they restormed it, and I was like, that's only worth 25, whereas you're saying stuff in the stands is worth 50. It's just it's not a good look for the league having to fine people. But I hope that some proactive, like maybe getting some folks involved on some of these campuses would kind of get out in front of some of this stuff. College kids are the hardest thing to control, man, because as soon as you tell them don't do this, guess what they're going to do?
They're going to do just that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with our fan base trying to be too cute, but just for curiosity purposes, was that ref a Mormon? What, or was that the closest thing our student section could find?
I that part I don't know the answer to. I would guess he was not. I think they're just, you mentioned, trying to be a little too cute. The sound of it, obviously, you could be very easily mistaken in the cacophony and noise that what Kevin Young was calling out. He's like, "Hey, I've experienced this before. I'm done with this." And that's why, because he essentially said, "You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna talk about this," because I think he was frustrated with that situation.
I will say, I think like it's interesting that a lot of other insults and a lot of other things to speak the severity of this, a coach complaining with the crowd after a loss when they shouldn't have lost would probably have been like, he's just like, this is clearly something everyone outside of student sections are taking very seriously, right? Like, and I don't mean that that's supposed to be comforting, Jake. I know that does not fix things. I think that is at least some, like, the conference, like, hey, we're gonna hit these fines. Like they're trying to do those things, but as Chris said, like, I'm almost somewhat pleased that there's no handful of, idiots with a handful of beverages, and because we didn't play each other in Houston, right? It was in Utah just last week. I also say, and I don't mean to jump in and make too much light of this, but there are other things to make fun of BYU for. They're playing, including this guy's hair. Like, we can go to Richie Saunders, right? Like,
leave Richie alone.
I just mean like
he's a stud, man.
He's really
player.
Good at basketball.
Yeah,
he's really good. But like, be more. There's other things to say. Be more clever. Like, that's why there's just be funnier. There's other things to say.
Trust me, BYU writes the jokes for themselves if you look close enough. So you don't have to go very far if you want to find them. So I think the biggest thing is BYU is just trying to make sure that that everybody, themselves included, feels comfortable competing in this league. So I can tell you, just from my vantage point, BYU is extremely proud to be in this league. They're very thankful the Big 12 gave them the opportunity to be here. I just think that they're just trying to make sure that, as I mentioned, everybody is comfortable, and that includes their own fan base, because there's a lot of raw feelings around that shooting in Grand Blanc, Michigan, of that LDS church house, and that still resonates all those months later.
Yeah, I don't know really how to follow up to that. It's like a very that's tough to just get into conversation about. But yeah, this is sports, man. This is just this is sports. We operate in the toy section of the store. Yeah, right. So anyway,
Cody, give me another crass joke you could have said that wouldn't have been nearly as offensive. Ready, set, go.
I just give it the golf clap. That's what I would just start doing.
Yeah, don't ask him to do that. You're just asking to get him in trouble.
Just
cut it.
Just check out Kyle Van Noy's next appearance with Pat McAfee, and I have plenty of jokes to work with. I'll just say that. All right. That's going to do it. I'm Jake Hatch, host of Locked On Cougars. That's Parker Ainsworth, host of Locked On Cougs. Don't get the two confused. One's Houston, one's BYU. Below me digitally, Cody Stovall, host of Locked On Oklahoma State. And the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Level, host of Locked On Texas Tech. As always, please subscribe, rate, and review all of these shows, and make sure you keep us in a job, because that's what we enjoy doing here. And catch us again next week right here on the Big 12 Squad.